Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network. The broadcast shows are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not designed to provide listeners with specific personal, medical, or counseling advice. Individuals with a medical issue should always consult their healthcare provider. MS&Me is not responsible for content of individual shows. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own. Enjoy the show.
What is going on, my warrior fam? How are y'all doing? Happy New Year to everybody. I hope everybody's New Year is off to a great start. Let's just get right into today's topic. So I just want to talk about, I was thinking about something today and it's really simple. So basically, I just want to talk about having a cold and dealing with, and at the same time as having multiple sclerosis. And I'm going to talk about the 2 times that I caught a cold. And I'm also going to talk about the other time where my allergies were acting up extremely bad. And this was all during the I was diagnosed in almost in March, in February of 2017. So I remember I caught that cold. That cold was in June. And then the second cold came in July. And then when my allergies started bothering me, it was around the end of July. So basically, that first cold, let me tell you, the second cold was worse. But the first cold, I remember it was just all tension in my head, but it was something like I had never felt before. It was just a feeling that I had never felt before. And my head felt like it was being squeezed by like the Hulk, or, just some huge, humongous man that was taking my head and just squeezing it. And I was just wondering, I'm like, I want this to be over with. And then I had the sniffles, of course. And then I remember my nose had bled. And when it bled, it didn't stop bleeding for like a good, maybe I'll say 2 to 3 minutes. It just kept coming and I was so nervous. I'm like, oh my gosh. And that's how I knew and that was kind of a reality check for me as well at that point, because I just knew that at that point I really do have multiple sclerosis. And even though I knew it at that point, but it's certain parts of something in your life, sometimes that can make you realize something. And so that was another thing that made me realize my body is really going through a change, because I remember even when I was little and a teenager, every time I caught a cold, not every time, but a lot of the times when I caught a cold, that was my thing. Like my nose would just bleed, and that's how I knew sometimes I was catching a cold, getting ready to catch a cold, or I had a fever. And so that wasn't, that was normal. But the way it bled, I'm like, oh my goodness, my body is really changing. And it was kind of scary, and I really had to sit back and think. And then the sneezing wouldn't stop. And then I had this extreme cough. And the cough would only come it was something about that summer night air that would just have me coughing, and I wouldn't be able to sleep. I was only able to sleep the cough would I remember every night until that cold was starting to fade away. Well, basically it was till it was gone. That cough would come around 11 or 11:30ish at night and wouldn't literally go away till like 5 something. Then that's when I would be able to sleep. And I don't really get a lot of sleep anyway because of this illness, because this illness keeps me awake. And then I go to sleep sometimes. I take naps during the day, but I'm always fatigued, and that's nothing new. But when I caught that first cold, that's what that was. The cough, the fatigued feeling, it was just horrible. And then I remember I took some Robitussin, and then it was something I read. It was like a lot of MS patients that consult with their doctor about taking Robitussin, and I took an Alka-Seltzer. And immediately I was just wondering, I'm like, at that point, I'm not gonna lie, I don't care, this cold gotta go away, because it's messing with my symptoms as well. And I have back pain as well from time to time. My back doesn't really bother me a lot like it used to, but since I've been in remission and been on treatment, but it was still bothering me at that point. And so when I caught that cold, it was horrible. My back was killing me. And I promise you, I was just in that bed just waiting. I'm like, please just go away, cold. Please just go away. I don't know how much more I can take. I don't know if I can take this, because it was just a lot. Then, so that was the headache, the back pain, the sneezing, runny nose, nosebleed, and that was that. And then also, I had pain in my leg, and I started feeling pain in my leg, and I still have pain in my leg. But at that point, I was still newly fresh to it, and so it was my apologies for saying but at that point, I was still getting that. It's always excruciating sometimes, but it was even to the 10th power at that point still. So just imagine having it's just like having multiple diseases in on top of your multiple sclerosis. So even though a cold isn't a disease, I remember even when I was still being diagnosed, and when the my neurologist told me that he didn't think it was MS at first, I I was still doing research, and I remember one of the first articles that I saw. I can't remember where I saw it, but one of the first articles that I saw, it said one thing you don't want to do is catch a cold with multiple sclerosis. And so happened, I was thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh, it must be bad. And so happened to be the lucky one. I'm just kidding when I say that, but for real, I'm serious at the same time. Like, I ended up catching a cold, and I understand that true meaning, because it was just horrible. And so that was the first cold. So now let's get right into the second cold. So the second cold I caught, it was right. It was mainly just I was really congested, and I could feel my sinuses on the side. It was basically like sinuses in my temple area, if that makes sense. And my throat really, it felt like I was having asthma problems again, but I knew it was that cold, and that cold really, really, really had my throat. It felt like it was closing, but I had such a hard time swallowing, and it was so sore. And every time I would eat, I'm like, oh my goodness. I remember I even threw up a couple of times because of that cold. And oh Lord, just even thinking about it now, Warrior Fam, it's amazing how I made it through that, because that cold, I'm telling you, that second cold, what was even worse. Even though I said the other cold, you would think that first cold was worse because of the symptoms that I had and was triggering all my symptoms. This cold really didn't trigger my MS symptoms like that, but the part that was bothering me the most was my throat, because even when I would lay down to go to bed, I could feel this immense pressure on my throat, and it felt like my throat was closing, and it felt like something heavy was pushing on my throat, and it was the most uncomfortable feeling ever. Even to let saliva go down my throat hurt really, really bad. And I was drinking hot tea, and nothing was working. And that's another thing that really made me realize, I'm like, okay, I'm really sick this time. And it's not like a cold sick. I really have a disease, because I'm taking medicine, I'm drinking tea, and nothing is really working. So I remember I went to a patient first, and they gave me I think they gave me a stronger cough syrup, something around that, and something to gargle with. And then that I started coughing that mucus up, and all of that stuff was coming up. And I immediately, within the first day or two, I started feeling some relief. And that was the best feeling ever, because it was just so hard to function. And all I did with both of those colds was sleep, 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 sleep. And was reflecting on those days. I was in the bed. I remember one of these days someone had called me, and we normally talk throughout the day, and I'm like, no, 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 no. We got to talk a little bit later. I need to sleep. I just need to sleep. And whew, it's even making me even like think like, how did I make it through? But I knew I just had to make it through. So another thing I want to talk to you guys about is, when you do catch a cold, the things to do. Because I was drinking, like I said, I was drinking the fluids and the hot tea, and that wasn't working. But I did go back to, for my throat after, I did use the gargle and that cough syrup. But I did one night go to an old remedy that my mother used to use when I was little. It was cayenne pepper, garlic, tea and honey. and that was like 1, 2, 3, 4, bang, and it worked perfectly. I immediately started feeling some relief, even more than on when I started feeling it excuse me, I'm getting flustered a little bit. I apologize, but even more on top of the cough syrup and the gargle medicine. So going into that, I would say use that remedy. Take uh, as many naps, get as much rest and sleep as possible. Try another thing too. Try not to go outside that much when you have a cold with MS. Being outside and being in that air, especially in the summertime. Well, any kind of weather can make you catch a cold, but in the summer, when you're dealing with MS, you're going to deal with allergies, and then I'm going to get into that as well. Um, when you're dealing with that, when you have your cold in the summertime, all of that pollen, all of the summer germs, that's what you have to work with. And then in the winter, that's why I've really been in the house basically every day. I'm just waiting for school to start back, and then I go back to school next week. And I'm really excited, but I'm just worried because I'm like, I have to be outside a little bit more because this semester is not going to be that short. It's going to be from January 10th to May 8th. And I'm like, I have to be outside. I just can't afford to catch anyone's cold. And I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but something else I'm going to say too is after you shake someone's hand, after you give someone a hug, make sure you use some hand sanitizer. Ever since I got diagnosed, I started keeping hand sanitizer on me. It's not to offend anyone, or I don't really let anyone see me do it, but I do it for my own benefit because I can't um I don't keep my hands in my face, but just in the matter that I do, or I want to put some Blistex on after I shook somebody's hand. They could have touched something outside, they could have coughed in their hand, and it's not intentional, but things happen. So, and then I'm putting that germ in my body, and what's going to come after that? A cold, a flu. You don't know what's going to come. So keep some hand sanitizer on you as well. Or even like if you carry a backpack or something, or purse, some wet ones, just something so you can wipe your hands off, because you're not going to always have access to a sink. So that's something that I do. And whew, and another thing I do want to touch on is when you do have those colds, it can make you feel like I said, it was triggering my symptoms. And then dealing with MS, you have symptoms, but it's not necessarily the MS attack. So be mindful that it can make you feel like you're having an attack, because with the first cold, that's what I really felt like I was having. I meant to say that earlier as well. So be mindful when you catch that cold. Everybody's different, because you could be having an attack as well, and you at the cold at the same time. But just be mindful that I'm not gonna say most likely, but a lot of the times it's not necessarily MS you're about to have an attack in an episode. You're just it's just the cold taking over, and your body's already prone to the disease, and it's not as easy to fight off germs and anything else now that now that you are an MS patient. So just be mindful of that. Wash your hands after everything you do. If you go outside, you cut some grass, you shoveling snow, touching something in your room that has dust particles on it or anything like that, make sure you wash your hands, because you don't want to put your hands in your face. You don't want to touch any part of your body, just anything, especially if you have sensitive skin. Just go wash your hands. It takes nothing but a few seconds to wash your hands. Wash them for, and then something else to think about as well. I'm just trying to give different like scenarios so you can like really take this into consideration, and this is something that I do for myself as well. But most of the time I use headphones to speak on the phone. But in regards to speaking on the phone, if you don't use headphones and you have your phone, or if you're old school and have a house telephone, make sure you're wiping that cell phone down, because more than one person can use your phone. Or just putting your phone up to your face, and then it not wiping it off, all that oil, all of those germs, from outside, from inside. Just be mindful of that. So be careful with your phone, and be careful with things that you do put up to your face. So keep that in mind again. and I want to talk about my allergies. So when my allergies started bothering me, it was horrible. I just keep saying that, but horrible, horrible, horrible. And the thing that was bothering me the most was the inside of my nose was itching, just a burning sensation, and my eyes were on fire. Like I'm being on fire, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And I remember I went to a doctor's appointment, and my neurologist did tell me, he was like, yeah, now that if you've already had bad allergies, now that you have MS, it's gonna probably hit you like 2 times harder. So with that being said, it was just horrible. I just kept rubbing my eyes, and I remember my mom and my grandmother always used to tell me, don't rub when you have those allergies, and I just couldn't help it because it was itching so bad. And I remember, I think I went to go get them myself some eye drops, used them. It would give me some relief, but it wouldn't last that long. Again, another reality check. I'm like, why aren't things working for me anymore like they used to? But I had to realize I now have multiple sclerosis, so it might even, I don't know necessarily, but it might just take a little bit more time for it to work. And so with, just giving my eyes relief with the eye drops and everything, and with the burning nose sensation would come and go. So that just gradually eased away. But I kept using those eye drops till I really couldn't feel nothing anymore. And it was such an irritating feeling because all I just wanted was relief. And that's another thing I want to talk to you guys about. Just know that relief is gonna come, and we have to be patient when catching a cold, having those bad allergies, and then something else I want to say too. I'm just very glad that my asthma doesn't act up. Hasn't. I'm gonna say this. Doesn't act up while I have MS, because I can imagine what that feels like. So I'm glad and I'm very blessed that my asthma is not acting up on me one bit. The last time I really needed an asthma pump was somewhere in 2016, but it calmed down. Thankfully, it calmed down on its own, and I didn't have to go to the emergency room or go get a inhaler, which I probably should go get one just in case. But excuse me, I'm sorry, my throat my throat is acting up now. But I probably should go get one. I probably will go invest in one soon. So colds, flus, and allergies. Be cautious of your surroundings, and it's not, it's possible to catch a cold. That's not an impossible thing, but try your best to avoid catching it. You can't do certain things that you used to do, and then especially if your body was once as strong or strong enough to fight off the cold, then now that you knowingly have MS and your body is going through that big change, it's your immune system is weak and it's fighting itself, and the cells are already in us are fighting against each other. So we don't want to make that worse when we have a cold. And then when you do have a cold, remember, drink those fluids, try to take the best medicine possible, and if you need to go, don't be afraid to go to the doctor, because if you don't know what's wrong with you, because that's my thing. Every time I feel like something wrong with me and something not right, I'm going straight up to that doctor. That's what I'm going to do, because I don't care what anyone has to say. I don't care what anyone says to me. Oh, you just can't go to the doctor every time something happens. If something doesn't feel right, if I feel a symptom that I haven't felt before or anything like that, I'm going to see my neurologist. I'm going to see my physician, and that's that. Because you should don't let anyone tell you, oh no, you're crazy. It's all in your mind. And that's something that I probably would talk about in the next segment. But people without MS really should stop telling us it's more of an emotional thing. Yes, our emotional state is affected by it, but trust me, you have no idea what we go through. No idea. So keep yourself healthy. Eat a lot of fruits, a lot of veggies. Eat garlic cloves. That my mom always gives me those when she has a cold, so I don't catch a cold, and it helps my body fight off the cold. She's been doing that since I was a tot. Every time I caught it, I remember it was something else, and I loved it. I'm such a weirdo, but I loved this drink one time that she made. And I remember it had like garlic all at the bottom of it, and it was so delicious to me. And I remember just wanting to drink it one time. Like I just wanted some. I didn't even have a cold. My mom even has garlic capsules, so I take some of those sometimes, and vitamins, and then you know just supplements and anything that will help fight and help our bodies stay up. And if someone in your household has a cold, try to avoid that. That's what I do now. My mom has a cold. If my Jeepa has a cold, I'll most definitely I'm gonna be in my room most of the time. And my mom keeps Lysol. We spray the door handle. We wipe down the phones. We wipe down the refrigerator handle. Just so the cold isn't passed on. And now that my grandfather has health issues as well. So she always told me when I used to catch a cold, don't go in their room, don't touch anything of theirs. And now that I have my own health issues, she, she has to look out for me as well. And so she, no, we just double up now times two. And another thing too, get some face masks. I really need to invest in some face masks. Someone told me to get some, and I'm gonna start doing that because it's just so easy to catch a cold. And ever since I've been little, I've always been the one to catch a cold very easily. I get sick so easily, and it's been a while. And when I mean easily, I caught colds a lot. But I stopped catching colds a lot as I got older. But it's still very easy for me to get a cold, you know. And even in my childhood, I remember being the one to catch colds, and then it would always make me vomit, nose bleeding, as I said before, So those things. And when your nose is bleeding, I'm pretty sure you guys know this, but if some people don't, I'm still gonna say it. Hold your head up, tilted, get a warm or hot rag and hold it up to your nose and keep doing it. And then if you need to change rags or paper towels or anything, do that. But keep your head tilted just a little bit, but try not to tilt it too much so that way when you tilting that you won't end up swallowing that blood. So in conclusion for this segment, for one, I hope I help somebody, just to know what to do when catching a cold and having multiple sclerosis, and just be aware of your surroundings. If again, something has a lot of particles, dust particles, if something's not clean, make sure you have that hand sanitizer on you. Make sure that you're being aware when you shake someone's hand, not, and I'm just being so serious when I say this, not to put your hands around your mouth, not to do anything. You just don't want to catch that cold. And then, for instance, if any of you guys ride public transportation, something that I've had to learn how to do is when holding that rail to stand up, or when their seats are full and you're holding onto something, you don't know. So the next person has coughed in their hands and touched that before you touched it. So have some hand sanitizer after you get off. Don't stick your hand in your chapstick. In your Vaseline or your lip balm that you have to rub on your mouth. Don't do that. And if you just touch that rail, use some hand sanitizer first. Let it dry. Then go ahead and use that. So it's very easy to catch a cold. Again, so be cautious. Just be cautious. If you guys want to talk more with me or about my symptoms that I had with the cold or anything around that, please feel free to message me on my social media. It's Young MS Warrior. Young is spelled regular, YOUNG, MS Warrior. I have a YouTube platform that I'm using as well, and that's the same thing, Young MS Warrior. I love vlogging. If you guys want to message me and want me to talk about having a cold with MS and I'll make a vlog about it, talk about it, make a video, I probably would do that anyway. Now that I even mention it, because I think I will do that for you guys. So I'll definitely do that. Put that on my list to vlog. And again, thank you for tuning in to MS Champion Radio, my warrior fam. I love you all so much. You don't know how much y'all mean to me. Y'all get me through so much. And I just have to thank everyone for this platform. Everyone who's on here everyone else who I listen to on this radio platform. We all are fighters. We all are warriors. I can't imagine not having this platform, not having the other people to talk to and stand by, because at first, as I talked about before, I believe I spoke about this in other segments. I didn't even want anyone to know but my close friends and family. But it makes me feel so good that there are others out here like me, and we all are together, and we all will be together forever. This disease will forever connect us. You guys are my MS sisters. You guys are my MS brothers. We are a MS family, regardless. Thank you, and I love you. You've just tuned into MS Champion Radio. I hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next segment. Love you guys. Let's do this. Let's fight.